Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sports Now, the show where we go over and debate the biggest stories in sports. I'm Josh Heller, as always joined by my co-host, Logan Ripley. Logan, how's it going today?
It's going well. We have a lot of sports things to get to from various teams, various conferences, various organizations. So we're going to start it off with the big thing. Of course, it's feeling like spring here in Albany, New York, and that must mean March.
Yes.
So it might be cold pretty soon. We're going to talk a little bit about our NCAA brackets. I think Josh has completed his.
One of them.
All right, one of them. That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's true.
Is one.
Yep.
So we're going to look a little bit at our upsets that we picked.
Yep.
Upsets that could happen.
Yeah, I want to go region by region. So we'll start in the South, the Kansas region.
Yep.
Tell me what you got, if anything.
I did pick Wichita State a while ago.
Over Vanderbilt or over Arizona?
Over Vandy.
Okay.
And then over Arizona if Wichita State won.
Yep.
So I have Wichita State, and that's not just a write-in, people, after the game happened. I did watch the game, and I had it on brackets, so I am good about that one.
I say UConn over Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
not
9 over an 8 is a huge
8-9
upset.
game. Come on.
Still an upset.
And then going later on, I have Iowa beating Temple.
Yeah.
But then I have Iowa beating Villanova.
Really?
In the
So
round
you're not
of
a
32.
Villanova fan?
No.
Why not?
Because
Just
they were
from
in the Big
East.
Yeah.
Big East? Okay.
Big East.
Fair.
Yeah, those battles with Syracuse the past 5 years have gotten me not to like them at all and the way they play basketball.
So who are your Elite Eight teams in the South? I'm guessing Kansas is probably one of them, right?
Yes.
Okay, Kansas, and then who do you have out of the bottom of the South? If you have Villanova losing, who do you have?
I have a game that pits Miami and Iowa against each other.
And then who do you have winning that?
I have Iowa winning.
So you have Kansas versus Iowa in the Elite Eight?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And this is just one of the brackets. This is my upset bracket.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
I
was going to say Iowa, man. You just like Fran McCaffrey, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen, and I see it happening, but, I'm not that ballsy, I guess you could say, in a certain sense, when I pick my brackets. So, yeah, I could see Iowa. They were ranked very low this year, as low as third, I believe. No, maybe they got to first place.
I think they were just top three. I don't think they ever got
Yeah,
so
they've had a solid team. They have a veteran team, and they could make a run. I'd aside if Arizona gets beat by Wichita State, then Miami, I think, will take care of Wichita State. And that's just Iowa versus Villanova. And if they beat Villanova, I don't think Miami is going to be that big of a challenge to beat.
Okay.
If they beat Villanova, it's going to be like a downgrade from Miami will be a downgrade from Villanova and talent-wise. So.
Yeah. For me, for my Elite Eight, I also see Kansas. One of the interesting second-round matchups to watch for me, what I think is going to happen is Maryland versus California. And I think Maryland will take that one, but that'll be a good one to watch. I also had Wichita State over Arizona before last night's game.
Yep.
And I think in one of the brackets I planned on having Wichita State over Miami, but I might have to look into that. I do have Iowa beating Temple, but then losing to Villanova. I am a fan of Villanova this year. Usually I'm not. But, I mean, the Big East is a good reason why you wouldn't like them, just because of the weak play. But, I don't know. I see them, from just a little bit of watching them, they look like a good team. I don't think they'll make too much noise, but as a 2 seed, you can make as much noise as you can. I think they will make it to the Elite Eight, but Kansas wins that and moves on to the Final Four.
All right, so let's drop down to the West region here.
Yep, the weakest number 1 seed.
Yeah, Oregon. I've got them getting beat by Duke later on.
Me too.
As Duke takes care of Baylor.
So you're one of the few people that doesn't have Yale beating Baylor. That's like one of the more popular upset picks, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have that. I have Northern Iowa beating Texas.
I had that in one of them. Yep. Do you have VCU? A lot of people have that.
No, I do not have VCU.
Really?
I watched them play this year. I like Oregon State a lot more with Gary Payton III and their backcourt.
Is it third or second?
The second.
Second, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have of course, Oklahoma's good, and I have a big matchup between Texas A&M and Oklahoma.
Yep.
And in past brackets, I've picked Oklahoma to win it all, so I have them beating Texas A&M. But in this specific one, I have Texas A&M because it's a sort of upset bracket that I like to see.
Right.
Certain things can happen, especially we've seen it all season long where number ones can't hold their position. How is it going to be any different than that in the tournament? So so I have a little bit of 4-3 matchup between Duke and Texas A&M. Who you got?
I have a 4-2 matchup in the Elite Eight. I think Oklahoma will make it to the Final Four. But in terms of earlier in the bracket, I also agree that Oregon, I think, is going to lose to Duke. Duke is going to take down Yale. I picked Yale. They'll move on. Interesting matchup for me is going to be St. Joseph's versus Cincinnati. 8 versus 9 isn't usually that exciting, but from the stats I've seen on St. Joseph's, they're an offensively explosive team, and I'm curious how Cincinnati's going to be able to handle them. I've seen split decisions on both.
I think St. Joe's takes it handedly.
Handedly.
Yep.
Okay.
I think St. Joe's is that good of a team, and I've heard a lot about them.
Yep.
And I think they'll put a tough test against Oregon after they go by St. Joe's.
I've gone back and forth on Texas versus Northern Iowa. I think right now I've settled on Texas, but I keep flip-flopping. I think A&M is going to handle Green Bay pretty easily.
For that Texas-Northern Iowa game, just a little more in-depth, Shaka Smart, old coach of VCU, is now the coach of Texas. So they play great defense, but they're scoring, they have a couple different guys, but it's not, like, solidified. They're still kind of like last year, I feel like, where they had a great player in Miles Turner, but they never used him to the full potential. They have eBay, who's decent. They're not performing up to their standards, I don't think. A 6 seed for Texas, where the team that they have, they could be good, and I think they need some more talent that it's younger coming in. Northern Iowa, on the other hand, has some great shooters. They play in that Missouri Valley Conference. They play defense, and they know how to play defense. All of them. If you want to beat Wichita State, you have to know. And Northern Iowa did just that with 2 wins against Wichita State this year, and 1 against UNC. They have their guard. He's a lefty. I think it's Weber, something like that.
I'll take your word.
He's very explosive, and if he goes off, Texas is not gonna be able to stop him. So that's one to watch.
I mean, your knowledge of college basketball is more than mine at this point, so I'll roll off what you're saying. But to sum up the West, you have a 4 versus a 3 in Duke versus A&M, and I have 4 versus a 2, Duke versus Oklahoma. So with that, we go to the top right to the East region, the North Carolina region. Tell me what you got.
Oh, just to add, his name's Washpun.
Oh, okay.
Washpun. W-A-S-H-P-U-N.
Okay. Up to the North Carolina region, what do you have?
So I have North Carolina in that one. I have North Carolina. Well, Florida. I just want to add Florida Gulf Coast had a big win last night.
That was a huge win.
They demolished. Who was it?
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, and they just demolished them.
Florida Gulf Coast has the 3rd best winning percentage in the NCAA tournament history. Yeah. 3-1.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So dropping down, I think we should talk about this 8 and 9 game between USC and Providence. I think it's gonna be pretty close, but I have Providence.
I also have Providence.
All right, Providence has
a great.
Chris
Dunn makes he's gonna make a big difference.
Very good. He's gonna be. He could possibly be the 3rd overall pick in the draft coming up to the Boston Celtics. He could.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, from down in this bracket, which I don't, Chattanooga is very interesting, but I have Indiana.
I like Indy, yeah.
Kentucky, people have talked about Stony Brook.
I really like Kentucky.
Notre Dame.
Now,
I have thought about Michigan.
I also thought about Michigan. If
they
it's
must
Tulsa,
play
I don't
tonight.
think so.
They play tonight.
Well, Wednesday night.
Which is Wednesday.
Yep. If it's Tulsa, though, I think Notre Dame can handle Tulsa.
And that 7-10 matchup, which is very interesting, Wisconsin-Pitt. I have Pitt.
I did at first. I went to Wisconsin, though.
All right, yeah. Wisconsin's been very inconsistent.
Yep.
They lost their coach, Bo Ryan. He just left. I don't understand that one still. He just retired, 5 games in. So there's some different things. I have Xavier doing well. Yeah. But then getting beat by West Virginia.
I want to stop on West Virginia for a second. We kind of skipped over that. 3 versus the 14, kind of the popular pick. People remember Stephen F. Austin from a couple tournaments ago making noise with their upsets, and I think this is going to be another one. I think West Virginia is a good team, but I think Stephen F. Austin has been there before. They haven't really lost that many players from their last tournament upset Cinderella team, and I think they can handle West Virginia, and I think they could handle the next round. I think that Stephen F. Austin's going to make this Sweet 16. Then lose to Xavier.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I have West Virginia
How
going very, very far. One of the best defenses in the nation, and their full court pressure defense is only matched by Louisville, who is not in the tournament.
Right.
They apply the most pressure to the ball. They get up and down the court, transition. I watched one turn of events in the game that they won. They won their conference game. I don't remember who it was against, but they were down maybe 12. Down 12, 3 straight turnovers and full court pressure. They were right back in the game. Mm-hmm. So I think they could make a very big run, and I have them moving past Notre Dame, past Xavier, but getting beat by UNC in this bracket and other brackets. I have West Virginia winning it all. So that's just
so you're very high on that.
Yes, I am very high on Bobby Huggins. I believe that's his name. Used to coach the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yep.
So we're dropping it back down.
Yeah, and just for I do have.
Oh, who do you want to
I have no, you don't care. I have North Carolina versus Xavier.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah. I usually go by. I'm very chalky when it comes to this.
That means he likes Kansas, folks.
No.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Nope.
Down
to the Midwest.
Yep.
The Virginia region. Tell me what you got.
Hampton is not going to upset Virginia.
Yeah, stop it.
Butler will take out Texas Tech.
Agree.
Purdue will win.
Disagree.
Iona is beating Iowa State.
Agree.
Seton Hall is beating Gonzaga.
Disagree.
Utah, Syracuse, Michigan State. Syracuse moves on, play Michigan State. Syracuse will win. Seton Hall wins against Utah, beats Syracuse, and will play Virginia in...
Who do you have Michigan State losing to?
Syracuse.
Okay.
And you'll see the Virginia 1 matchup versus Seton Hall, the 6 matchup. Iona will get past Purdue with their high offense.
Okay. So let's keep in mind that yours is upset heavy.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
it is. No, I'm doing this on purpose.
Yeah,
people,
no, I know.
If this happens to go down,
you're welcome.
I'm going to look very good. And I have that, kind of like, yeah, this is just the upset bracket. That's not my real one. But if it happens, I look good. So
yeah,
that's the way the show works.
I'll run down mine.
All right.
I do like the Virginia team.
Yep.
They'll handle Hampton.
Brogdon is very good.
I've got Butler over Texas Tech as well. I do like Purdue, but there's something about the 12-5, and there's something about Arkansas Little Rock. I think they'll take Purdue down. All right. But it is a toss-up for me.
I have that 4-13 matchup with Iowa State.
I also have Iona.
I don't trust Iowa State.
Especially after last year's loss to UAB.
I don't trust them
really
ever.
Don't trust them. Nope.
I don't know. Them in San Diego State must be about the state team.
Right? I know.
Kawhi Leonard, did anyone even know he played for San Diego State?
I don't remember him
because they got beat early when he played too. So
yeah,
and he's arguably the top 3 player in the NBA. So
yeah,
I think Seton Hall will make a big difference. What do you have for that between the Seton Hall Gonzaga and the Utah Fresno State? What's that section look like for you?
I have Gonzaga upsetting Seton Hall. I do like that one kid on Seton Hall, Whitehead maybe.
Yeah, Whitehead is correct.
I do like him, but I think Gonzaga, they've kind of had that experience. They've been there before.
All right.
I think they'll take down Seton Hall. I have Utah over Fresno State. They have that one center whose name I can't remember.
Potel, I think.
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's like Poetle.
Okay.
It's something like that.
But yeah, I think Utah can take down Fresno State and then take down Gonzaga. Now, I'm also a Syracuse fan, and I had the toss-up between Dayton, but I think that with this being in the Midwest, Dayton's a little closer to home. The Syracuse team, many people think, didn't deserve to make the tournament.
Right. And this is the point where they prove it, that they should have made the tournament.
I hope so, but I don't think so. I have Dayton taking down Syracuse.
Right.
Michigan State, I think they'll go far. I think they'll go to the...
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I think they'll go to the Elite Eight and play Virginia and beat Virginia. I think Michigan State will go to the Final Four.
This is where I think my upset bracket could come into play pretty well because, people have Michigan State, and when you're trying to win tournaments and pools, you gotta pick contrarian. You try to pick the same teams as everyone else throughout until you get to the last, to the Elite Eight.
Elite Eight. Yep.
And with Michigan State, I'll say it here first. Mid Tennessee.
Yeah.
They,
no.
Yep.
No, you stop that.
It's happened before.
No.
Valentine will struggle.
Nope.
No one else will be able to pick up the slack. He's
Nope.
not going to have a triple-double. They will lose.
Nope. Now, okay.
Should we get off our picks, or do you want to add something?
No, well, just really quick.
Let's go through our. We haven't
Final
talked about.
four.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it.
So in the South, we both have Kansas. Yes.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
In the West, I have Oklahoma. Who do you have?
I have Texas A&M, but I'd like to add something. Almost probably 75% of my brackets have Oklahoma in the Final Four, just because I'm so intrigued about the Kansas-Oklahoma game. We've seen the matchups.
This would be part 3.
Kansas and Oklahoma. Buddy Hield throwing up 46 and triple overtime, and then Kansas squeaking out a win. You know, they're 1-1 right now.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to see the rubber match, and I think they do too. And Jay Billis said it before the bracket even came out, so you have to give him props. He goes, "You might see the third game between them," and he called it right on the nail. I think it's gonna be. I think they're gonna get there. I had Texas A&M in this one versus Kansas, and Texas A&M winning against Kansas, but.
Wait, you have A&M in the championship?
Versus Kansas, and then I have them beating Kansas, and then I have them playing UNC, who beats Virginia, and then Texas A&M beating UNC 76.
So it is very upset heavy.
Devon House all the way for the win. He's going to have to play well, but I think this is one of my funner brackets. Nice.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Picking upsets. So continue your thoughts on that Kansas-Oklahoma, and then what you have in the Final Four in Houston.
I love Buddy Hield. I think,
right.
But I have tossed up both Kansas and Oklahoma. I think I've landed on Kansas winning that matchup, but I think it's going to be a great game to watch if it happens.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the bracket, UNC versus Michigan State, another huge toss-up for me.
All right.
But I think UNC coming in as the preseason number 1, I think they'll take down Michigan State and they'll take down Kansas for the title. But the thing is, that's a popular pick, and that's not going to win me a bracket pool.
Right.
I need to win a bracket pool, and I don't know the strategy. So if you can
all right, so
enlighten
me. I'm gonna add this. I like to think of a way in the Final Four without getting. You'd love to have maybe 2 top number 1 seeds, 2 number 1 seeds in your Final Four. For me, I look at the Midwest region. And I see a 2, 3, or 4, or 5 coming out of it. I look at the East region, and I see a 2, 3, 4, or 5 coming out of it. I look at the South region, and I see a 1, a 5, a 3, or a 7, or a 2. Like, the only 2, West and the South, are the number 1 seeds that I really think have the best chance to get. Or no, not the West.
Not the West.
Because
you don't like Oregon.
Oklahoma, the 2 seed in Oklahoma has a very good chance, and the 3 seed. So I think that it could possibly be a 3-3, a 3-2. Like, I don't think you're gonna see. I have it in this bracket. I don't think you're gonna see a 1-versus-1 matchup in the Final Four this year. You're gonna see one Final Four team, 1 seed in the Final Four. The rest are going to be mixed between 2, 3, 4, and 7.
Now tell me, how do I win my bracket? Like, do I go chalk at the beginning and then have all the upsets at the end when the points are more, or because I'm in a bracket pool with about 50 people and another one with about 30.
I have won brackets in the past.
Yeah,
and
I have never won a bracket.
There's a couple different ways to do it. You definitely need the Final Four, and the Final Four helps only in concrete years, and I don't think this is one of those years. The chalk years, I don't think it's a chalk year.
Okay.
Last year was somewhat a chalk year.
Kind of.
Wisconsin and Duke, if you had those 2 teams.
I had Wisconsin, I didn't have Duke.
Then you won. Pretty much, if you had Wisconsin and Duke, and you had Duke, you won. The year I won, one of the years I won was Kemba Walker, UConn. They were
a 6th seed, weren't they?
Yeah, and I picked them to win it all. So,
okay.
I think more so than I think the backcourt wins championships.
Okay.
Last year, Tyus Jones
won
the championship for them, and Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
In the past, you've seen Kemba Walker, Jeremy Lamb. I'm trying to think back. I picked Trey Burke.
Kentucky,
I picked Trey Burke and that Michigan team because of Trey Burke.
Okay.
They did well, but they didn't get there. Kentucky, the Harrison
Harrisons.
twins.
Yeah.
I think it's led by them, and from the teams I see that have a chance, UNC Page has struggled.
Yeah.
Kansas has a great guard in Mason, and he's steady. He could be one of those guys to lead the team there. So I think Kansas is a good pick, and then of course, Oklahoma.
Now let me ask you, like, with a bracket, like, some teams are going to be really popular picks. I know North Carolina's popular pick among people. I know Michigan State is, and I know Kansas is because they're the number one overall. Even the president picked Kansas.
Right.
So in a case like that, you have a number one team like Virginia, who's a really solid team, and they have a 1 seed for a reason, and nobody's picking them. Their percentage picked in like the ESPN Tournament Challenge is way below 10%. So if you're in a bracket pool and you want to win, do you pick Virginia to go to your Final Four, or do you go with what you believe will happen?
What you believe will happen.
So you don't play it by numbers. You don't go, oh, nobody's picking this guy, so I'm going to pick this guy.
I think you only do that with the seeds between the 3 and the 8.
Okay.
I don't think you do that with the 1 or 2 because you get those people that are just like, oh, I'm going to pick the 1 seed because of it. I think 10%, yeah, I guess it's a pretty steady number to be like, oh, no one's picking them. But
I mean, would you rather pick North Carolina, who's being chosen?
It depends if the team is.
25% of brackets?
It depends if I like the backcourt and if I like the front court and if I like the bench. Virginia has Brogdon. They don't have much else after that, I believe. If it was a team like UNC last year, who was not as good as this year, but they, say they're a 5 seed. I don't know what they were seeded.
I don't remember.
Probably a 1. Who knows? But if they're a 5 seed and they're kind of like struggle a little bit, but they have Marcus Page and all those other guys, then yes.
All right. So that was a lot of time on that.
Well, it is March, and we'll keep you guys updated. We'll move into President Obama, like Josh said, quickly. Kansas, he picked them to win it over UNC. Obama, notoriously chalk guy.
Always.
But in the West, he brings Duke out over Oregon, and he brings A&M out over Oklahoma.
Wow.
And A&M will beat Duke, is what he has, and
Wow.
Michigan State on the other side. UNC, of course, so Kansas will win.
That's not as chalky as him.
No, it's not as chalky. It's his last year picking, and I think he's done the best.
He's done pretty well.
Out of a lot of people, so.
Yep. So with that, I'll move on to Hockey Minute. Montreal Canadiens head coach Michel Therrien expected to return next season after a really poor season this year. They are currently 32 and 6th. That is 6th place in the Atlantic Division. They've had some trouble with injuries to a bunch of guys, especially goaltender Carey Price. They started out, I believe it was 9-0, and they fell apart after that. Therrien, not known to be a great coach, but he is going to return, and we'll see how Montreal does with a healthy team. The 2016-17 salary cap expected to be $74 million. That is up from $71.4 million this season. Maple Leaf star prospect William Nylander is going to burn the first year of his entry-level contract. He will play his 10th game in a Maple Leafs uniform, burning the first year of his deal. And lastly, Blue Jackets defenseman Jack Johnson out for the rest of the season with shoulder surgery. Not really huge for them because Columbus is nowhere near contending. They're way closer to the basement, but still news nonetheless.
All right, we'll move over to football. Cleveland Browns. Oh, yeah, they're doing moves. The Cleveland Browns released linebacker Carlos Dansby on Wednesday. The Browns informed Dansby of pending moves shortly after they announced the signing of Demario Davis as a free agent from the Jets.
Yep.
Anything to add on that move? Browns need to do something quick, I think.
Yeah, Dansby's getting up there in age. He's looking inside with a contender, so I am curious to see who he goes to.
We're going to move over to the Patriots as we discussed.
Patriots Insider.
Patriots Insider, my roommate, Keith Bureau. Shout out. I told you guys last show that with the trade of
Chandler Jones.
Yes. They get an offensive lineman, Cooper, and a second-round pick.
Yep.
And he was traded to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And I said that Chris Long, through my insider, was looking like a very good guy to be picking up, and they probably had a little short handshake on it, Belichick or someone. So they're like, all right, let's move him, Jones, and bring in Long. So free agent defensive end Chris Long has agreed to a 1-year deal with the New England Patriots.
And the Rams lose Long, but they do bring in former first-round pick star North Carolina Tar Heel Quentin Toples.
Oh, all right.
Yep. So they replaced him quick.
Yeah, so there's some moves going down. A long, older guy, but, man, he's productive. And he was hurt a little bit last season, but he loved the Rams organization, and I think it just killed him that he got released by them. And then he's just like, well, I'm going to go out, win a championship, and leave on a high note. We'll move over to Washington Redskins. What do you have for us there?
They signed one of the top safeties available, David Bruton, I believe is his name. He played, I think, with Denver last season. A good secondary guy. It was a pretty slow day in the NFL, but this was one of the top stories that was out there as Washington improves that defense that wasn't really that great last season. Picked it up towards the end of the season, but wasn't fantastic.
And over to the Diamond, we look at the quick double play. Just kidding. We have Adam LaRoche news again.
Yeah, we reported last show that he was going to retire. So he left baseball. He said he left baseball. Jimmy Rollins says that he doesn't expect him to return to baseball. He expects him to retire. He hasn't done that officially. Rumors have come out today, notably from Ken Rosenthal. LaRoche chose to retire. This is from a tweet. LaRoche chose to retire after White Sox president Ken Williams told him that he no longer could bring his 14-year-old son into the clubhouse, and that's why he called it quits.
Wow.
So people had thought that LaRoche was just at that age and he wanted to call it quits. He didn't care about the money. His body was degrading, but it might be something more than that.
And it looks like it's internal, so maybe you'll see him moving.
Not a good look for the White Sox.
And some, it's 2016, people, and it's definitely a more progressive time. And this story from the Cardinals minor leaguer and their team, it's not a good one, and Josh will highlight the important facts of the story.
There was a Cardinals minor leaguer. Do you have his name handy?
No, I do not.
I'll let you look that up. I don't have it either. But he is gay, and he had to quit baseball. He got death threats and other threats from his coaches and teammates. The story was on Outsports.com of SB Nation, as well as some other places.
Tyler Dunnington.
Dunnington, thank you. So Tyler Dunnington had to deal with those threats. Just couldn't deal with it anymore, so he quit from baseball. He was in the minors. Like you said, it should be a more progressive time, but some people are just stuck in their ways, and it's not a good look at all for the sport.
Yeah, and I think the sport, it's not good for them, and I think the MLB will definitely take some action and really look into this case, and that's a big story break for Outsports.com.
I believe they were the first to break it.
Yeah,
that's the first place I saw
I'm finding it.
Yeah,
and this hopefully, we've seen the NBA transition, and the NFL not so much with the whole Odell things. Players calling him gay and rumors to be gay, and people are like, well, what if he is? It's not a big deal. He's one of the best players. Doesn't affect him. Doesn't affect anyone.
Right.
I think sports teams need to evolve like other programs have in organizations in business.
I mean, even places. The Seton Hall kid that I was talking about, Whitehead, he's gay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he's such a great player.
Yeah, and
it doesn't affect the team at all.
He could be a very big advocate for their community.
He has been.
Yep.
We'll
move on to a little bit lighter note. Barry Bonds still hitting dingers.
So he is the Marlins hitting coach, and they had a home run derby today in batting practice, and Bonds beat all the Marlins in terms of home runs. Do you know who's on the Marlins? Do you know who's on the Marlins? Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, well,
Barry Bonds beat him.
He probably wasn't trying.
Do you think Barry Bonds could still be a DH in the league?
Yeah, if A-Rod is, I think he could.
I think he could too.
Then again, I think Barry Bonds is still using steroids. So
that's a discussion for another day.
Over to the hardcore.
Well, before we move on from that,
we got more baseball.
Yeah, before we came on today, the Mets officially released Ruben Tejada.
Yep.
He's expected to sign with the St. Louis Cardinals, but we shall see with that. Now to the hard court.
Yeah.
It's a very slow day for the NBA.
Yeah. We only have one story, and we're gonna finish up with it here. Tim Duncan moves 14th all time in scoring.
Yeah.
You've seen him move into like the leader in blocks and all these other great stats that just personify his character and how great he's been all his career, the Spurs are still. If the Warriors weren't doing what they're doing, Spurs would be one of the best teams of the decade.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And no one's giving them enough credit, and Tim Duncan enough credit playing center, while Aldridge is playing power forward. So I think that you have to give him credit for the way that he's changed his body and evolved with time.
Yep. So really quick before we end it off, breaking news from Adam Schefter. The Browns officially terminated their contract with Dwayne Bowe.
All right. So Dwayne Bowe
had an awful season.
Big wide receiver for Kansas City a couple years ago. Very good Pro Bowl, and then I was surprised he went to Cleveland, and then he didn't do anything.
He did absolutely nothing.
Hopefully he'll get a new start. Maybe he'll be on the Patriots. That's where all these older guys go that are struggling. Chad Johnson.
Yep. Do you have anything else to add today?
No, that's all I have today.
All right. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure to follow our show on Twitter at RSR Sports Now. My personal account is at JoshHeller20.
Mine's at lowercase LOGAN _RIPLEY.
You can find our archive shows on our YouTube page. Search Sports Now on YouTube or direct links on our social media.
Yep.
You can find us on Facebook. Search Sports Now on Facebook. Thank you for listening to Sports Now on Radio St. Rose. Be sure to tune in next time for all the latest news around the sports world.